to believe that it's been a couple of years since I saw my mother alive. One of the things that I pointed out to her when I saw her not too long ago, it's been a year or two ago now, was that if she was ever questioning whether or not her life was a success, she could look at the fact that she had raised 5 children past the age of adulthood. In fact, all of us were in our 50s or 60s by the time I said that to her. Probably one in the 60s and the others in the 50s, but that's beside the point. That's quite a long while to have your children live. So they had done a pretty successful job at that. I'm not saying we all came out perfectly. Obviously we didn't, but the point is she had managed to raise those children. Now I'm going to give you an age, 63. Does 63 seem like a long time to live, like an old person? Maybe to you it does, but to me 63 is not far from my current age. It's not too many years and I'll be there. The thing is, my sister died in her 63rd year. I bring that up because I want to talk on this subject today of falling away on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Wednesday, the 30th of March of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, the podcast, YouTube, BitChute, CloudHub, my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there, kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, mine's minds.com on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, Parler, Gab, Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be picking me up today. Again, the subject is falling away, and I'm going to take the time to go through my notes very quickly. If you had a typical childhood, you probably remember birthday parties, Christmas mornings, and maybe gatherings at Thanksgiving. Maybe you went to visit other family members. Maybe you stayed home with your mom, dad, and siblings, or some combination that may be a part of that group. It could be you were, quote, poor, end of quote. Though, if you're in the United States, you need to know your poverty, even for most of the poorest, is not comparable, really, to folks in other parts of the world. Even so, I imagine there were some happy events you can look back on, even if you were poor, right? As you got older, most of the folks from your childhood probably fell away. I can tell you that for me, my parents moved on after I, their last kid, left home. My brothers and sisters scattered to the wind. By the time it was all said and done, my parents had moved around Texas, Florida, and other places for both of them. For my mom, time in Arkansas, then the remainder of her life in Missouri. And there were some back and forths that went on in there. For my brothers, they moved around a bit as well. We're relatively settled these days in terms of where we are, though nothing's set in stone, obviously. In all of this, there's some sadness. Why? Because of the falling away, the aforementioned falling away. I rarely see my siblings more than once or twice a year. My parents are gone. That is, they no longer are on the planet. So there's no more time to visit with them. My oldest sibling, my sister, who I discussed earlier on, has passed as well. As such, we'll never get that chance to come together again either. For the remainder, we're living our lives and rarely have the time to get together. I guess the message here is this: enjoy the time while you have it, and work to keep things going as best you can. And I mean relationships and so forth. Okay, I'm done with my notes. I mean relationships and so forth, right? I mean keeping together with your family, being able to visit with people, hanging out with folks that are a part of your life, or a part of your life in your early life. Let me just tell you, this could be a really short video. I'm going to try and kind of make sure that I hit all the high points. But this could be a really short video because the reality is, all I have to say to you is, you don't think about it, but the truth is, when you grow up, there's this tendency to move away from your family and to not really be involved in their existence anymore. And like I say, for me, if I get a time or 2 times a year, and look, I've got a brother who's less than 50 miles away. You know how often I get to see him most of the time? If I get 2 or 3 times a year, it's an amazing thing. 2 or 3 times a year. He has a daughter, and his daughter is growing like a weed. I have another brother whose kids are pretty much all grown and gone. Two of us started a couple of our kids late. One of them a little bit late, but not as late as the others. And I don't really get to see those kids to see how they're growing most of the time. Most of the time, I just don't get to see them at all. I just don't. That's how that works out. It's sad and it's unfortunate, and it's something that I really want to make an impression, particularly on younger people where this is concerned. Look, you think there's time. Oh, there's time. Oh, there's time. My sister was just 63. Now, again, a lot of people might look at that and go, wow, that's kind of late. She actually lived a pretty good life. But you know what? Both of my parents lived, I think my dad just made 80 and my mom made like 86 or 87, somewhere in that neighborhood before either one of them passed. My sister passed at 63. Now, she didn't get out and about much as it was. She had issues of various kinds, and I'm not going to get into the details on that made it so that she didn't care to travel and she didn't care to be up in the daytime. She was mostly a night owl, you could argue. But the point is, it really got to the point where I rarely ever talked to her anywhere but social media, and even that became pretty rare. And then one day she was gone, and nobody expected it. Nobody expected it. For my brothers, one of my brothers lives far enough away that we just don't get the chance to get together all that often. And not only that, but where I would love to get together to him and with him, and where he would love to get together with me, the chances for that are really, really rare. I guess what I'm saying, like I say, is this. It's really pretty simple. If you think it's not important to keep up with your family and that you're just going to separate with them and so forth, there will come a time in your life when you will realize, hey, you know what? We fell away, and I really have no way to deal with these individuals in any meaningful fashion, right? My brother, he doesn't really do Facebook or anything like that, any social media stuff. Again, I'm loath to name names, but he doesn't do any of that. So I don't hardly ever see him anywhere. Another brother, same thing, doesn't really do social media, don't really see him anywhere. The third brother, not really all that excited by social media either. He and I converse on the phone on a regular basis, and that's nice, but it's nothing like getting the chance to come together and visit, particularly when it comes, like I say, to doing things like visiting with his kids, because mostly when he calls me, he's not around his daughter. But even if he is, I don't get to see her, so I don't get to know how she's really doing. And the same applies to his wife and a lot of other people. And we've tried at various points. In fact, I have to give them kudos, that particular branch of the family, because they tried in a way that really didn't work very well to get us together, to get people together. But the point I'm making is really very simple. It really is. You think you're going to have a long time. People will not necessarily be around tomorrow, today. I have a neighbor down the street whose brother lapsed into a comatose state, I guess, and then ultimately was taken off life support when it was decided he probably wasn't going to survive. And nobody really expected it. Nobody, and he was fairly young. He was even younger than my sister, as I recall. I have another neighbor who had the same thing happen. Not quite the same thing, but had lost a sibling, his oldest sibling, and they just were gone one day, and it was over. That was all there was to that. And this is a lot of how life works. When your parents are in old folks' homes or whatever, by that time, actually, you're not really able to visit with them as you'd like to begin with, because they're not really able to correspond, to deal with you, to relate to you on the level that they used to when you were younger. They just aren't. So I'm just going to say this again, and this is, to me, really important. You think maybe that it's no big deal that people fall away in the course of time. Let me just tell you, as time goes on, you're going to realize, you know what? I missed my opportunity to spend time with this or that individual. This is what's going to happen. Please make it your business to try and keep up with, particularly the older, but even the younger, of your relatives of various kinds, of your friends, because one day they're not going to be there, or you're not, one or the other, right? So that's kind of where I'm going with today's little falling away topic. I need to go ahead and wrap things up. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Wednesday, the 30th of March of 2022. That would be the middle of the work week for a lot of folks. Tomorrow will be Thursday, the 31st of March of 2022, working up on April 1st, that April Fool's Day that a lot of people like to celebrate. I personally don't agree with that. But that's what tomorrow will be, and obviously working closer to that weekend and to the Sabbath for those who observe it. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That's the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com, on minds.com, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, primarily there, on Parler, Gab, Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be picking me up. Again, the subject for today was falling away, and tomorrow we're going to talk about young offenders, and this is something it's pretty important to me to discuss, because I don't think a lot of people think about the subject of people who get in trouble when they're young, 8, 7, 6, whatever it happens to be. They don't really think about that and what that means to life in general for that individual and how things are going to end up working out. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you as usual, and hopefully we will see you again on Thursday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Wednesday, the 30th of March of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. minds.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, and Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind, you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's